Although the origins of pottery making can be dated back to the Roman times in Staffordshire, the main production for the potteries was during the Industrial Revolution.
This is Gladstone Pottery Museum, and it's the only complete remaining Victorian pottery factory from the days when they used the coal-burning bottle ovens to produce the world's finest English bone china.
I've met up with Ray Johnson from Staffordshire University, who for the last 30 years has been documenting the history of the potteries.
So Ray, why did Stoke-on-Trent become the ceramics capital of the world?
Well, it's resources really. You've got an abundance of local red clay, a lot of wood, lots of quick burning coal near the surface. All the resources are together. Natural place to make pots.
And a good infrastructure, I guess.
Yeah,
good roads, canals, railways.
Well, that had to come. You know, that was brought in, but obviously it starts with the farmer potters. These are humble people with a small kiln and making domestic wares. But gradually there was money in this, and these developed into pot works or workshops.
Or pot banks, as you call them.
Or pot banks, eventually. And they become known as factories, manufactories. As the industry grows, they're making butter pots and so on.
Around the mid-18th century, larger pottery factories were emerging, and there was an influx of people into the potteries seeking work. There was a huge demand for ceramics throughout the country, and this led to an increase in ideas and creativity.
So who were the big boys in the business then, the big guns?
The most important was Josiah Wedgwood. He came from a family of potters and set up on his own in 1759. But he was important not only for developing his own ware, but developing techniques. He was scientific in the way that he made ware, fired ware, and he was very important for introducing mechanisation, flowline production techniques.
So he wasn't just a craftsman and an artisan?
No. He was important for the industry as a whole because he had the canal cut to bring the white clay from Devon.
For St Austell,
yeah.
the China clay.
So he had the canals cut, he had the roads improved, so he developed the whole infrastructure for the industry as a whole.
At one time, there were 50,000 people working in the potteries, and 3/4 of the pottery made in Britain was made in Stoke-on-Trent.
So what about the workers? I mean, was it hard? What were the conditions like? Was it squalid?
Yes, it was terrible. I mean, you got all the smoke from the firing, you got the dust from the clay, you got lead in the glaze, mercury and poison in the paint the paintresses are using. So really, the conditions are terrible.
It sounds grim, actually.
But you got families working together, man and wife, and basically you kept it in the family. It was family tradition, the way you work. But the life expectancy was poor. Average life expectancy about 47. So you were old in your 40s.
That's us.
That's it. And this area had the highest infant mortality rate in the land.
Wow.
So it was not a very healthy place to work.
No.
There were literally hundreds of different jobs that men, women, and even children were employed to do, from making the pots, to the decoration, to the firing of the kilns.
One of the toughest and dirtiest jobs you could do working in the potteries was to become a placer. Now, this chap was a placer, and it was his job to stack the saggers. This is a sagger. You'd put all the pots and wares in there, pack it with sand, and then stack them one on top of each other, just like this. Thousands of them in concentric circles, making one big spiral. He would then get outside, and the door would be bricked up. This bottle oven would then be fired up to around 1200 degrees Celsius and left fired up for 3 whole days. It would then cool down, but the bosses were eager to send them back inside to get the goods back out to inspect them, even though the temperatures were still boiling hot for these guys. But the whole landscape in Stoke-on-Trent is changing, isn't it? I mean, we've lost all the old bottle ovens now.
Yeah, the biggest change was in the 50s with the Clean Air Act, where they couldn't fire with coal anymore. So you had to go over to tunnel kilns with gas firing, electric firing. Well, some of the bigger firms had already invested in that. But the small firms like this, the difficulty was a tunnel kiln takes a lot of space, and you had to demolish bottle ovens to build them, and of course then you've got no income. So the smaller firms, a lot of them went under or were swallowed up by the conglomerates which are developing at that time.
Stoke is still internationally famous today for its pottery making, but we've come a long way from its heyday.